you have a picnic today?
Yes.
You did get, you're going to learn a lot about fractions next year. And fractions are very important. In fact, you can use them in real life. You probably already have used them in real life. So, the other good news is, I am a fraction expert. Okay? So anything you need to know about fractions, you can ask me. And Miss McKenzie does that too. But I'm just an expert in fractions. That's all I do is talk about fractions, okay? So we're going to talk about some stuff that you already learned, and maybe you didn't quite know, and maybe some stuff you didn't learn. So let me just put my notes up here. So, my name is Mr. Ed. You guys can call me Mr. Ed, okay? And I have two rules. Don't talk while I'm talking. And if you do have a question, raise your hand, and then I'll call on you. There might be a period of time where I don't want you to ask a question. I'm just going to do my thing, and then I'll let you ask your question. So if you have a question, if you want to write it down, like a little note to remind yourself, you can ask me later. And I might answer the question before we get to that stage, okay? Is that cool? Okay, good. So, fractions, like I said, are something you need in real life. And I'll bet you guys have used fractions all the time. You probably say, can I have half your soda? That's a fraction, 1/2. How far, you ask your mom when you're in the car on a long trip, how far are we? And she says, we're 3/4 of the way there. Does that mean you're almost there or not even close? Almost there, because it's more than halfway there, so that's a good thing. So you already are using fractions in your life, and you're going to use them more and more. And it could be very valuable stuff to know as you get older, and even as a child, you need to know this stuff. So we're going to just talk about pizzas, because that's the easiest way to talk about fractions. And as you can see, I brought some pizzas, but they're just screwed pizzas. So here, basically, basic stuff here, okay? You probably already know this stuff. You have one pizza, and as you probably know, when you get a pizza delivered to your house, there's 8 slices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you have, how many slices of pizza do you normally eat when you get it?
8.
8? No way.
Yeah. 4.
4? Okay, some big eaters.
2.
All right, one slice.
25 seconds.
One slice is 1/8. Actually, I can write with any of these, I guess, right? These are erasable?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is 1 slice. I'm holding my hand. I write that as a fraction. And since there's 8 slices, I'm eating 1/8 of the pizza. Okay, so if you say I want 1/8 of the pizza, that means you want 1 slice. If you want 2 slices, it could be 2/8 or 1/4. That's reducing it to 1/4. Okay, so that's important. Now, this kind of a fraction is the kind of fraction that you think of when anybody says fraction. And what I call this a proper fraction. It's just a regular old-fashioned fraction. Nothing special. It's the basic kind of fraction there is, okay? But that's a vocabulary word you should remember, proper fraction. As opposed to an improper fraction, im is kind of like not. Like impossible means not possible. Immobile means you can't move, okay? Im is a good prefix word to remember. Improper is this, 8/3. Now what's different between this fraction and the first fraction I wrote?
The numerator is bigger. In this fraction, the numerator is bigger than the denominator.
Right.
In the other fraction, the denominator is bigger than
Right. So an improper fraction, basically the numerator, is another vocabulary word, is the top number. Okay? So if the top number or the numerator is bigger than the smaller number, then it's an improper fraction. It's kind of a weird looking fraction. Okay? Whenever you see something that looks weird like that, fraction world, it's weird, it's an improper fraction. So what this also means is if I've got 8/3, it really means, how many times does 3 go into 8?
2 and
2 times. And what's left over?
2/3.
2/3. So this is the same thing. 2 wholes and 2/3, okay? So when I have this number here is a whole number, this number here is a fraction, this entire number is called a mixed number. It's mixed because it's got a whole number and a fraction, okay? So you got a whole pizza and a fraction of a pizza. That is a mixed number. So that is a vocabulary word that you have to remember because teachers are going to start using it and they're going to expect you to know what that means, okay? She says improper fraction, mixed numbers, proper fractions, you know what it is, okay? Now the other thing is, that's kind of neat about fractions. I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but I'm going to show you. If you want to write, I gotta get a better pen. A whole number, the number 4, how can I write that as a fraction? Anybody else? You already answered one. How about you?
You could write an improper fraction.
By, okay, so where do I put the line? Up here?
Yeah.
No, I put it under here. How about under here? Now what would I put under here? Anybody know? You?
8.
It would be number 1. Because it's a whole number, and I'm just writing it as a fraction. It's not that useful of a thing to know right now, but at some point when you learn about multiplication and division, you'll need to know that, okay? So somebody says write a whole number as a fraction, all you're doing is putting a number under it, okay? So if I got 1 million, and I want to write it as a fraction, I write 1 million, put a line under it, put the number 1 under it, okay? So it could be a trillion, a billion, it could be 2, any number in the world with the number 1 under it makes it turn into a fraction, okay? Now also, if I have 5, well let's do 8. 8 over 8, what is that the equivalent to? You?
1 whole.
1 whole, it equals 1. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so I've got 8 eighths. And that means I have 1 whole pizza, okay? So whenever you see a million over, what's that equal?
1 whole.
Are you sure about that? 1 is the same as a million?
Yeah.
That's a big number.
1.
It's right. I'm just teasing, just checking. You gotta be confident in your answers, okay? You're right. It could be a trillion. Anything, when you do the number over top of itself, it's equal to 1. Okay, so that's just another thing that you need to know. It'll come in handy, trust me. All right, now let's do some work with these fractions. We're going to add some fractions and do a little bit of reduction. Okay, you probably learned this stuff, but you need to remember this can be kind of tricky. Fractions are tricky. Okay, even I have trouble with fractions if I'm not being careful and paying attention. Okay, most people don't like fooling around with fractions, but you have to. Okay, you have to divide up pizzas for your family, with your friends. You're gonna have to work with fractions. So the more practice you have with it, the more comfortable you are with it, the easier it'll be, and the fewer mistakes you'll make. Now, so adding and subtracting. I'm going to tell you a little secret here. Adding and subtracting fractions is actually harder than multiplying and dividing them. Remember you learned multiplication and division recently, right? Like in 3rd grade probably? That's harder than adding and subtracting, but with fractions it's actually the opposite. So I think you're going to learn adding and subtracting fractions first, and then you're going to get into multiplication and you're going to realize, hey, this is easier than what I already know. So once you get past the adding and subtracting part, you're home free. Okay, because multiplication, as long as you know your times tables, you'll be good to go. So let's say I have 2 slices of pizza. What is this fraction? How do I write this as a fraction?
1/8.
1/8 plus another one. 1/8
2x.
equal. All right, easy. 2 eighths.
1/4.
1/4. You guys ever watch that show SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yeah.
You know Squidward? He's kind of like the dumb guy, right?
No, that's Patrick.
Patrick, all right, Patrick. I saw an episode once where Patrick had a fractions test and he got the answers right, but he didn't reduce it, and the teacher only gave him half credit. Because she said, oh, well, he understands how to add them, but he's forgetting to reduce them. And so if you start rushing through your tests and your homework, you might do that too. Okay, so always remember to see if it can be reduced. And the way we reduce is we find a number that can divide into this number and a number that can divide into this number. It has to be the same number. So what number is divided into 2?
2.
2 and 1. The 1 doesn't do us any good, it's just going to make it the same thing. So if I change that, 2 goes into that one time, and whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So how many times does 2 go into 8?
4 times.
4. Okay, so I reduced it by the common denominator, or the common number, which is 2, and what I do to the top, I do to the bottom. So 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 8 4 times. Okay? Hold on a second. We do a couple more. All right, say I have a big number here. I'm going to do a mixed number here. I'm just going to draw a picture now. I've got one and a half plus 2 and a half. Okay, what kind of number is this?
Mixed number.
Right, good job. So, just in case you're having a bad day or you're doing a test and you want to get confused, think of the pizzas, draw a picture. We've got 1 whole, 1 half. Okay, it looks like a D, but that's half a pizza. Plus 2 wholes and 1 half. Okay, so let's just add the wholes first. 1, 2, 3. Right, 3 wholes plus 2 halves.
4.
Yep. I got 3 wholes and 2 halves. 1 plus 1 half plus 1 half is 1.
3 plus 1 is 4.
3. Okay, I got 4 holes. 4 whole pizzas. All right, let's do another one. It's a little trickier now. You guys gonna be ready for 5th grade? Okay, I think you are. I got 1/4 plus 2 and a half equals. Let's do a picture. Let's do a picture. I can do it with this. This is an 1/8. This is a quarter. 1/4. Okay. You can also say a quarter. That's what they call quarters. Quarters. It's a quarter of $1. Okay. You can also say 1/4 of $1. So what's the first picture I'm going to draw? I'm going to draw a quarter picture of a pizza, plus 2 holes and a half a pizza. Now it still does not look quite right. I've got 2 holes, a half, and a quarter. I need to express that in a way that makes sense. So let's just do this. Let's make this have the same denominator as this one. All I need to do is this. So I've got 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. See what I did there? I turned that 1/2 into 2 quarters, so that it's equivalent to the quarter I have over here. Okay, that's because I have to work with common denominators. So what I've ended up doing was going 1/4 plus 2 and 2 quarters. Now I know that looks like, what's that guy's name on SpongeBob? Patrick would write 2 quarters, but in this case we have to be a little bit like Patrick and write it this way so that we can just work with it and then we'll fix it later. So I've got, well, that's easy. How much is that? 2 3/4. Because I've got, let me go up here. 1/4 plus 2/4 equals 1 plus 2 is 3, 4, and I've got a hole down here, so that's 2. It's 2 3/4. Okay? So that's the tricky thing. You have to remember to make sure you get to common denominators, because you can't add 1/2 and 1/4 and 1/2 because it won't work. You have to make the bottom number, which is the denominator, to be the same, and then it's just a matter of simple addition. Okay? Now this worked out to be a number that does not have to be reduced. And so we're good to go. And that is a What kind of fraction? Mixed number. Good. You guys got this vocabulary down pat. So, I'm going to break you guys up into groups in a second, and we're going to do some real life word problems. So you're going to have to think about this stuff. You're first going to have to write a math problem out of the word problem. So you have to read it, and you have to turn it into a math problem, okay? Well, let's just review real quick. Somebody give me a proper fraction example.
3/4.
3/4. Because the bigger number, the top number is smaller, the bottom number is bigger. Okay. Hey, guy in the green. Give me an example of a improper fraction.
23/8.
Good job. 23/8. Okay. Mixed number.
2 wholes and 8/16.
That's half right. It's a Patrick answer.
2.5.
What's wrong with this fraction here? We have to express it a little bit differently. Can we reduce it? 8/16. How many times does 8 go into 16?
Twice.
That means it goes into itself once, 8 goes into itself once, and it goes into 16 twice. So that means the answer is 2.5. Okay? Don't forget, don't be like Patrick. Remember to reduce your fractions. I don't know what Mr. Feary does, but you'll probably get half the answer right if you do it that way. You'll show that you can do the math, but you're not showing that you know how to reduce it. And it's not that you don't know how to reduce it sometimes, it's something you just forget. I do that too, so you have to be really careful with fractions, okay? One more. Let's say I have 1/4 plus, no, one. I did that one already. 1 and 1/8 plus 2 and 7/8. Let's just do the whole numbers first. What's that?
3.
Okay, got the easy part out of the way. Now we've got 1/8 plus 7/8. This is my scratch paper. When I'm taking a test, I have scratch paper. I do little things like this the teacher will never see, but I do so I can keep track of what I'm doing, okay? Now, this is actually a pretty easy one. What's this equal?
8/8.
8/8.
Or 1. 1 whole.
Or 1 whole. So 3 plus 8/8
Equals 4.
equals 4. It's also, I can do it like this. 3 plus 1 equals 4. So we converted it to a whole. All right, I think you guys are doing pretty well here. So now, the trick is to actually have a real life situation where you have to read a problem and then think about the numbers in the problem and then write a math problem like I did. You have to make your own math problem. Once you get the math problems down, I think you guys will be home free because you guys are solving these pretty quickly. So we're going to do some real life application of what you do with fractions. And this is what you're really going to get into in 6th grade, I think. You're going to master the fractions, and then the teacher's going to start throwing some real life problems at you. You have to think about it and say, how do I turn this word problem into a math problem? Okay, that's a whole other skill you can talk about another time. But it takes a lot of practice, but it's a little bit more interesting, okay? Because you're actually solving real things. So what I want you guys to do, I'm going to break you guys up into groups of 6. So I'm going to go around the room and point to you, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And after this person, the number, oh, actually, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. You know what? We're good to go like that. So stay in your groups, and I want you guys to work. I don't know. You and you, everybody that's on the end, I want you guys to go back to that table right there. I'm going to break up into 4 groups. Go ahead, you can go with them. take a piece of paper and a pencil with you.
We just take our math notebook.
Yeah, that's fine. Just something to scribble on. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. So what I'm going to do is give each table a problem to work on. I want you guys to work together to solve it. And then when you're done, you're going to move to the next table and solve the next problem. Okay? Jason walked 1/2 mile, 3/4. This was a tough one because you have to come up with a common denominator. So what did you come up for an answer?
No, they have
1/4. You understand how she did that? Yeah, you got the pictures. How about you? You understand? Actually, show him your pictures.
Wait, but Carmina,
Look at how she drew these pictures and see how you understand.
You need to wait patiently.
How'd you come up
Did
with
you
it?
figure it out?
I still have it because I just.
Let's, Carmina,
Actually, you know what? Why don't you work with him and you show her your pictures. Drawing the pictures is the easiest way to do it. Show her how you show me the pictures. How you guys coming along?
you need to work out the problems.
These guys are drawing pictures of the fractions. Well, 8 and 2/4. Well, this is a tricky one. Did?
Or I just do is I just do the denominator and I just.
Well, let's do the whole numbers first. 8 and 2. Okay, so we know that part. Write down the 10. So now we have to add 2/4 and 1/5. This one I didn't actually go over too much. This one's a little bit more advanced, but we kind of touched on it a little bit. So
What I do is I just make a chart and I go down till I only do the chart like this.
but are you finding the common denominator?
Yeah.
What's the common denominator between 4 and 5?
20. 10.
No, it's 20. 4 doesn't go into 10.
Oh, I was doing the denominator.
Yeah,
That is the denominator.
so 2/4 plus 1/5. Everybody write that down. 2/4 plus 1/5.
2 is not. Yeah, but you split it. You could get it. That's the denominator. Yeah, exactly, but you can reduce that. Yeah, it is. Not mine. No, it's.
Yeah.
No, it's 6. It's 6.
Alright, can you find the common denominator?
It's 20.
Yes, 20. So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top.
Oh, okay.
What'd you multiply 4 by to get to 20?
5.
Yeah, so 2 times 5 is 10. And then this one you multiply it by 4. So you got 4 over 20. So go ahead and write that down here. 4 over 20. 5 over 20. Yeah.
Okay, wouldn't that be 10 over 20? Oh, wouldn't that be 10 over 20? Oh, no, 14. Because 2 times 9.
So you got 920. It's 920. Plus 5 is 9. So you got 920. What did you come up with? Let me see what you came up with.
I'm done.
Oh, you're the
That's what I came up with.
I told you.
That's what you came up with. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see.
No, these are together. What's the answer? Yes. It's more like you use it one. I think that when it's 2
times 5 is 10. 20 plus 4 is 20.
How many pizzas?
14 20s, and then you reduce the 14 20 to 7 tenths, and add that to the whole number, which is 5. What was the whole number? 10.
I can write like that.
Yeah, plus 2. So it's 10 and 7 tenths.
Yeah. Right. Oh.
See how we reduced it? Did you guys get it?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. Did you guys get it yet?
Yeah, we got it.
You guys, here you are. Everybody switch. You guys go to this table. You guys go to this table. You guys go to this.